All right, I'm back with the next Gren Twigs video. Last time we were talking about custom types in Gren, in particular custom types that can hold data. I tried to recreate the context we were in when I left off in the Gren REPL last time, where we had a custom type called user with two variants. One of them was an anonymous user, one of them was a logged in user. That logged in user held some data. That data we said would be a string. We were going to use that to hold the user's name. And we created a function that would take one of these users, and when they were anonymous, say this, when they were a logged in user, we would capture that name in a variable so that we could then print our little message here. We could call that with anonymous, get our message. We could also call it with a logged in user. And remember, those variants are just constructor functions that return an instance of that user type. So that's what we're doing here. We're calling the logged in function with a string, passing the result of that to the greet function, and we get what we expect. Now, what if we are in a situation where we don't, we either don't know the type of data we want to hold, or it doesn't really matter at the level of abstraction that we're working with at the moment. Or we want to create some type that's flexible. It lets you customize how you use it in your own particular context. To show what that looks like, I am going to create, I'm gonna pull myself up a little bit and pretend like I'm not in user land yet. I'm not worried about user types or anything like that. I'm more concerned with just the concept of fetching something from a server. Let's pretend like eventually we're gonna want to fetch a user from the server, but right now I'm working on a type that's more about fetching anything from a server. So I'm gonna call my type fetched result, because it's going to have a couple variants. One of them is going to be an error variant, and it's going to hold some data that represents, that tells you about the error. And one of them is going to be the successful variant, where I actually have the value I was trying to get. But I want this type to be flexible. I don't want to be able to just use it for users. I want to be able to use it for other things that I'm fetching from servers. So the type of error, I don't know yet. I want that to be flexible. So I'm going to create what's called a type variable called error. It starts with a lowercase. I can call it whatever I want. And then another type variable for the success value, the thing that I'm fetching. Again, I'm going to start it with a lowercase letter. I can call it whatever I want, but I'm going to call it value. And similar, just like a normal custom type, I'm now going to define my variants. I'm going to start with an error variant that holds an instance of whatever this error type happens to be, and a value variant, similarly, that holds an instance of whatever this value type happens to be. And make a new greet function. Now I'm zooming back in. Now I want to actually use this type for my users when I fetch a user from the server. So I'm going to have I'm going to create a function now called greet fetched user. And it's going to get a fetched result. It's going to expect a fetched result type, but now I'm going to define these. I'm going to fill in these type variables. I'm going to say that the error value that I expect for this function is going to be a string, and the value that I'm fetching is going to be a user. And again, we'll just return a string. So I have a result. When that result is an error, and I know that error is a string, I'm going to capture it in a variable called error. I'll just say oops. When I get my value, I know it's a user, so I can just defer to my original greet function. Okay, so I can call this now. Let's say I have some other part of my system that gets these users, and I end up with some value from the server, and it's going to be this fetched user value that let's call it with an error and say that oh dang, the server is gone. Oh no. Oops. Oh dang. I can call it with a successful value. Try it with anonymous. I don't need the parentheses in this case. Oh, but I do need to spell anonymous correctly. Didn't I? Oh, haha. Right. I I do need parentheses, and I have to make it, I was trying to call this with an actual user, but it doesn't want a user. It wants a fetched result. So I need to create an instance of fetched result. In this case, I will do that using the value variant. And this time I will pass in an anonymous user. That works. Now let's try it with a logged in user. I do need to close all my parentheses. Okay, that was a little quick and might be a little bit confusing. I'm over time here, so I'm gonna stop here. I will tie this into how it relates to using, interacting with the Gren runtime, having tasks that we turn into commands, how those relate to our messages that come to our update function. It all ties together, but I'll get into that in the next video or couple of videos. I'm gonna go adopt a scorpion. Bye.